Good morning, Anthem. This morning I just want to say how much I miss you guys, and I hope that you all are doing well and that your second week of homeschooling has gone well. And we're going to get right into our lesson for today. Today our lesson is Call to Commitment, and we're going to get started on that. Have you ever thought about why some people are able to commit to doing things while others cannot? Commitment. We've all struggled with following through on things that we have started. For a while, I thought it had to do with my ability to be consistent. Funny enough, when I look back on my time in school, my grades were fairly consistent when I was in school and when I was in a working environment. I'm usually good at doing what needs to be done at the appointed time, even if it gets mind-numbing. How many have been there before? I'm not so good at being consistent when it comes to some of my hobbies. Recently, I began pondering the question, why am I so inconsistent at times? The answer I got is this: it's about your ability to commit. Why does commitment have to do with consistency? Being consistent means doing the things that need to be done as many times as it needs to be to complete the finish whatever task is being worked on. Commitment speaks to the level of dedication that you or I put into something. It measures your faithfulness. As I started going through the Bible to learn more about commitment, I realized that most of the time, the word used to describe someone's level of devotion was the word faithful. The story of Noah particularly comes to mind. Yes, you know, Noah, the man who preached for years about things that he had never seen before. If there's a man that can teach us about how to be committed, it would be him. We can read his story in Genesis chapter 6. From Noah, we learn three main things. The first thing we learn from Noah's story is commitment requires faith. God says to Noah, I'm going to destroy the earth, and I want you to build a boat to save all the people who want to be saved, as well as the land animals and the birds. Oh, and you will also be saving 3 of your sons and their wives. When God came to Noah with this prediction of things to come, Noah could have scoffed at him. There was no such thing as rain. What did the word flood mean anyway? But he didn't. Noah believed God because his relationship with him was such that he did not need to question God. He knew that God was telling the truth. He believed that a flood would happen because God said it would. This was a man who had never seen rain, much less flooding. How many times does God tell us about something that he's going to do in our lives, and maybe we scoff at it? We don't see how it could possibly be. So we limit the hand of the God who created everything. That's what happened with Sarah when she was told she was going to have a baby. She was 98 years old. It was physically impossible for her to have a child, yet that's what an angel said would happen. So she laughed. Is there anything too hard for the Lord? The angel asked. And that is found in Genesis chapter 18, verse 14. What are you asking God to do for you today? Do you believe he can do it? Or does a tiny voice inside you tell you all the reasons he can't and what you're asking him to do? Let's be clear. God's not a Santa Claus. He doesn't have to give us everything we want because we ask him to. He's more concerned with sanctifying us so that we are ready to be with him at his soon return. But he is capable of doing anything and everything. Those things that we think are impossible, they're not impossible with him. The second thing we can learn from the story of Noah is commitment requires investment. The Bible doesn't tell of Noah's profession, but we know that God felt that he was capable enough to build a boat. Did the pre-flood people build boats? We don't know, but this would have been larger than anything they had ever seen before. We know that the detailed instructions were provided on what the boat should look like. However, unlike the building of the tabernacle and the temple at Jerusalem, there's no record that God had material delivered as he did with the children of Israel. We can read those two accounts in Exodus chapter 36, 1 through 7, and 1 Chronicles chapter 29, 2 through 8. Noah had to source and secure all the things that were needed to build the ark that was estimated to be 450 feet by 75 feet by 45 feet. It would have taken many tons of wood, gallons of pitch, and a whole lot of hours to get this project completed. A lot of times we are told that if we want to see real change in our lives, we have to invest in our lives. This means making a commitment to ensure that the resources are available. When we want to learn a new skill, we have to determine what tools will be required. We also need to determine the time commitment and decide if we are able to fit those into the budget and the schedule. Once we know what's needed, we have to dedicate the time and allocate the resources to accomplish our goal. The third thing that we can learn from the story of Noah, commitment requires persistence. Let me see a show of hands, and I know you guys are watching online, but how many of you give up quickly when the task becomes too rough or tough? Yeah, I've been there before. There have been times in my life when I've had a choice in the matter. The minute things get a little rough, I want to throw in the towel. You know, that time when the exercise routine is too hard. You want me to run how many miles, and you want me to lift how many weights, and you want me to do how many cardio cycle sets? Yeah, I've been there. Well, that means I can't exercise today because that is just too much work. Or maybe it was the time when I wanted to learn a new language, but after a few of the Spanish songs that were introduced to the praise team, I wanted to give up because it was just too hard and it was too complicated, and my tongue and my mouth, it won't form the way it needs to make the words sound right. It just sounds funny. We've all been there. Just imagine me today as Noah for just a second as we go into this improv skit. God, this is what he's saying. I'm going to send a flood to destroy the earth. Me? What's a flood, God? Why are you going to destroy the earth? And God's response, everything that mankind thinks is pure evil. Me. Okay, well, what did the animals do to deserve this? God. Noah, it's going to happen. Now I need you to build an ark that meets these criteria. And he just lists them out. Now let's pretend in this second scenario, I'm actually excited about this huge project that God has put me on. So I'm excitedly grabbing my scroll of paper and my feather pen, and I start making a long list of all the things I need to get and all the steps involved in building this great floating home/zoo. I eagerly collect everything. Only now my space is cluttered and I'm starting to feel a little bit overwhelmed. I don't remember where I put the gallon of pitch, and the framework on the ark is starting to lean a little bit. And pretty soon I'm throwing up my hands and telling God that I can't do it. The job's just too big. Do you sometimes ask God to let you be a part of something big only to start feeling flustered, frustrated, overwhelmed, and when the time commitment or the level of effort is greater than what you thought it would be, many times we want to quit. This is me sometimes. That's why these lessons are in the Bible for us. They are there to show us the value of faithfulness. I believe there's a reason the word we know as commitment is translated into faithfulness. It's because we can truly commit to something, or we can't truly commit to something without faith. We have to believe before we can start investing in something. Until we start believing our value and that we can accomplish our goals, we will not be dedicated to the cause. This is a really big deal because when we are devoted to doing the things that God called us to do, it may involve doing some things we never thought we would be doing. Let's think about it. When Noah agreed to build the ark, this is what he was committing to. He was committing to be a caretaker of a floating zoo, the first of its kind ever. He became a preacher. He became a project manager. He became a surveyor. He became an inventory clerk. There are so many other roles that came from his decision to build an ark. As I get older, I become more aware that consistency is directly related to the level of commitment, and that commitment is required in every area of life. Take that in. We need commitment in our marriage in order to have a long-lasting relationship. We need to be committed to raising our children according to godly principles. We need commitment in our walk with Christ. We commit to developing the gifts and the talents that He has given us for His glory. If for these reasons and many others that we have to be intentional about our faithfulness, without faith, we can achieve nothing. What do you find most challenging about commitment? Let that sink in. What do you find most challenging about commitment? What's the one area you want to work on this week? Lord, I am going to commit to this. I'm going to commit to Bible reading. I'm going to commit to prayer. I'm going to commit to a devotion. I'm going to commit, and you fill in the blank. Today, God has called us to commitment. I love you all, and I pray that you will work on something this week on commitment. I love you all. God bless you. Have a great week. Bye-bye.